think a lot of my work really has to do with like the first generation experience. For me, it's using like toys, bedding, stuff like that. For example, I started using lyrics from Spanish songs. And this is all music that when I was a kid, you know, my mom would play when she's cleaning the house. And I used to hate it because it was very sappy. As a first generation Latino, like the Spanish that I did learn growing up was just very basic, right? And so then when I go back to Mexico City or Guadalajara or Oaxaca, there's a lot of words that I never used and I kind of had to relearn again. And so listening to these songs, there's other meanings and other words that I didn't get. I also saw some of these lyrics as kind of like poetry. And so I took like open-ended like phrases, like siempre pienso en el ayer, which is I'm always thinking about yesterday. And there's something very poetic about those, and so I wanted to use those. And I knew some people would recognize them, but then I also felt like even like the English speaking people would be like, oh, that feels nice. A lot of people will put their own situation into those lyrics. So things could be about love, it could be about grief, it could be about anything. And so I want my work to kind of have that where people are going to get their own. I don't ever want anybody to ever feel the same way. I just want some people to feel something. I didn't really develop my own technique or world until I started working in the Tenderloin. And so I started using like fabric that I would find there. A lot of my work is very figurative, but it's also informed by like all the bodies that are laying around and like seeing limbs. If you see some of my work, I use a lot of, you know, like hands and feet and so that's kind of where the turning point for me was. That's when I kind of realized like, oh, okay, this is my thing, or this is my perspective that really kind of changed like the road that I was taking, I guess. I've been more influenced by a location or like, I mean, just San Francisco as the city has inspired me. And I also see it as a medium in a way. For example, I lived with drag queens in the city, and that also inspired my work because I ended up using a lot of like leftover material, like which I still end up using now. I'm gonna take the bits and pieces from these different identities and sew it together to create me or myself. My mom knows that I'm still working at other places and still doing my art. She knows that I'm getting like noticed. She's happy for me, but she didn't always get it. And sometimes it takes a minute for them to get it. And I mean, and the real thing is that as long as you get it, it's what you want to do. That's really all that matters. It's not always about if you're good at drawing or not. It's more about like, what are you adding to the conversation that hasn't been said already? You can have bad techniques, but some people will like that aesthetic. So it's really about like, what angle are you going for? I think that people think that you have to be able to paint like the Mona Lisa, but no, you just have to be able. Some of the best artists are just good talkers, so it's really about that.